8 hours without a goal for Real Sociedad. It wasn't getting any better, that result tonight. But as for PSG, good result for them, and Kylian Mbappe, once again, making a difference for his side.
Well, he will do against Real Sociedad when Kubo's picking him up from a corner. I mean...
Sounds like you don't want to talk about Kylian Mbappe, Craig.
No, I'm not going to mention Kylian Mbappe, to be honest. If anybody can poke a ball in at the back post, I don't think Paris Saint-Germain were very impressive. I actually thought Real Sociedad played better than they have done recently in La Liga, but they can't buy a goal.
Nope.
They can't buy a goal. And for all their good play, they're just not clinical in the final third. And that's the difference. And then the lack of marking, or the wrong personnel marking at the back post, you saw Kubo going one way when the ball wasn't cleared. He's just not got a defensive mindset. And then that's changed the game completely. And we thought yesterday that Real Sociedad would play some good stuff, but ultimately Paris Saint-Germain would win. And that's how it is. I think this game's well and truly over. But I'm not impressed by them. I think, again, if they'd played somebody decent, Paris Saint-Germain today, they'd have got beaten, for sure.
To your point about Take Kubo picking up Kylian Mbappe, set pieces is one of the few things that you can actually predict and you can actually prepare for ahead of the game. So in any locker room, there would be a board in which you have your matchups. You're picking this guy, you're picking this guy. This is your responsibility. I cannot believe for the life of me that they would have had ahead of the game, Mbappe, corner kick, Kubo, you take him. That cannot be the matchup. And so I don't understand how this happens, because this is one of the things that you cannot allow to happen if you're Real Sociedad. Indeed, you had played well. You actually created some opportunities. You had run into difficulty scoring 5 games without scoring a goal. Yeah, that's a problem. But to give PSG an advantage by essentially a lack of attention to detail away from home on a set piece, that's inexcusable. The one thing that I would say about Real Sociedad is that if they had Kylian Mbappe, they would be a great team. But they just don't have anywhere near that guy. They just don't have that personnel. They don't have a player that's a killer. They don't, not even close. And so what they do is that they get to about the final third of the field, and then all of a sudden you start looking around, you're like, no, that guy not good enough, that guy not good enough, he doesn't have confidence, he's not going to finish a chance. And eventually, you run out of space, you run out of ideas, turn the ball over in bad area, and now PSG is going on the counter. PSG were far more dangerous when they were going on the counter than having possession themselves.
We're just looking at the Champions League odds here, because obviously we saw Bayern and PSG play today. Obviously differing results for the two of them, but Bayern are favourites ahead of PSG. Who do you think's got a better chance of going further in the tournament, Craig?
Well, I'm just glad after about 4 days Bayern Munich have been shunted from that second spot. Because they were hovering about there like a bad smell. Who's going to go further?
Go on, Craig. Believe.
All right. Paris Saint-Germain. They're both going to get knocked out. They're both... I should say I really don't care, and I'll tell you why. Because they're both going to get knocked out the first decent team they come up against. At this level. I mean, Real Sociedad are decent, and Lazio are half decent in their own leagues. Half decent. The first real decent team they come up against in this competition that has got realistic chances of winning this competition, which they two don't, they're going to get knocked out. And that's where they are.
And to that point, Craig, you look at today how at times PSG was dominated through the midfield by Mikel Merino and Yarramendi and Barrenechea and so on. Look, good players, but not great players. And once you advance in this competition, you look at this midfield of PSG, and I just don't see them keeping up with the very best teams in Europe. They have difficulties actually getting control of the ball, getting a hold of the ball, and having actual build-up play. Not just, hey, let's play forward to Kylian, and he runs, and now we go and join him in the attack. I don't see PSG as a well-structured team. In fact, if you put two teams together, I'm saying Real Sociedad is far more of a team than PSG is, but Real Sociedad don't quite have the talent level at the highest point that PSG does. And Kylian Mbappe is very much at the forefront of that. That's why PSG wins this game, in that they have just enough in the attack, much more so than Real Sociedad. But in terms of them being a major character in the final stages of this competition, they don't have a team.
Are you surprised there's not more character from them, given the fact Luis Enrique's come in to do just that, to bring them together as a team, to have a team that's full of character?
Well, But when I say a major character, I don't mean so much about the personality of the team. I mean about the structure of the group itself, the organization or lack thereof. I see a team that is vulnerable. It's a team that can be dominated through the midfield. It's a team that can be exploited in the defensive third if indeed you have the talent to do so. Real Sociedad, without doing a whole lot offensively today, still had chances and had opportunities. And if indeed they had enough talent in the attack or enough confidence, whichever, the truth is that they should have scored a goal today, and they didn't. PSG is a team that it will be just enough, good enough to get past this stage of the competition, and then after that, they're depending on the draw.
I tell you what, Manchester City will never have a better opportunity to retain a Champions League, which I would imagine has not been done too many times. And I tell you why, because Real Madrid obviously are the closest team and they're a big threat, but they've got a lot. If their injuries keep going the way they're going, that's going to be difficult. The rest of them, I mean, Arsenal are strong, but they've got little experience getting, they've been all the way once, I think, to Paris where they got beat. But
Inter are better than last year.
Inter, all of a sudden Inter, shouldn't say this because Don will be licking his chops somewhere, but all of a sudden Inter, who are top of Serie A by some way, have got Atletico Madrid, which is going to be a tough game, but they'll be looking and saying, Bayern Munich, really average. PSG, really average. Then you got the likes of Dortmund, who for somehow won the group. Won the group. I mean, they're so far off the pace in the Bundesliga, it's scary. And then you're looking at the Portos and other teams like this. So, if Real Madrid get their act together and City keep going and maybe Inter, there's not going to be a lot where you'll say, well, maybe Bayern could win this. Maybe it's going to boil down to these two or three teams, particularly Man City and Real Madrid. Maybe throw Inter in there. The rest of them, unless they buck their ideas up and all of a sudden start playing great.
What about Barcelona? What? Okay, maybe not.
Are you being harsh on Arsenal?
Well, I'm not being harsh on Arsenal. Tell me what Arsenal have done in the Champions League that would make me sit here and go, yeah, Arsenal. Look at Arsenal have to win the Premier League. You know what I mean?
Is this not easier for them to win than the Premier League?
Well, they've won the Premier League before, have they not? Have they ever won the Champions League?
I'm saying just now, though, right now, is it with what?
Well, they have to beat Man City or Real Madrid, or depending on the draw, or maybe an Inter or somebody like that. So I'm not being harsh on Arsenal. Arsenal are a good side, but they're yet to prove under Arteta they can go all the way and compete under the highest of pressure, and they've not done that. They've played some great stuff last year and certainly recently, but at the moment it's looking like draw dependent. Real Madrid and Man City, or somebody's going to have to knock them out, and if it's not Inter, possibly Arsenal. I don't know who it's going to be.
The case that you can make for Arsenal is that they're more, certainly, I mean, there's no even question about this, they're more of a team than PSG, than Bayern Munich. And so that, I would assume, if you're an Arsenal fan, you kind of hang on to that and say, wait, if we're better than these teams, maybe we get to the level that we need to be in order to perhaps win this competition. But they're a level below, I think, Manchester City and Real Madrid.
I do want to just touch on Kylian Mbappe because his stats are absolutely phenomenal in the Champions League. 68 games, 44 goals and 23 assists.
And what's the point?
Can that be enough when it's a player of this magnitude to make the difference?
Talk to me when he goes to Real Madrid and we'll talk about his stats.
OK, so imagine this player on a Real Madrid side. What would that do then, Craig?
Well, what do you think it would do? I mean, take an already very good side with a bunch of guys coming back and putting him in with his pace and Vinicius Junior and Rodrigo and Bellingham and that's telling you're only going to have to worry about the back. But even his stats are not enough to carry this team, which has been a circus over the last few years. Not so much a circus now, but it's certainly cruising in League One. But even against Real Sociedad tonight, they didn't look.
We got him to do it, though. We got him to talk a bit more.
Well, no, but I would think that PSG, and to Craig's point, I think that PSG by now, under Luis Enrique, would look more than, or would look more like a team than what they do. It's very much, we win the ball, we play it forward, Kylian, go ahead, do something. And there's got to be more to this. If indeed you think that you're a major player in this competition, I just don't think they have any more than that.
If they go through, which I think they will in San Sebastian, barring a disaster, and they pull one of the big boys, and Kylian Mbappe, and then if they were to go out against a Madrid or a City, I would expect that. But if I see him working his tail off, not just the goals, if I see him working his tail off, helping all these young boys when they really come up against a big team, if that's the draw.
Leading the team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll sit back and go, fair play. Oh, all right, PSG, maybe they lost, but he went out there on 180 minutes and he grafted and he grafted and he could do no more. Do you think that's the Kylian Mbappe we're going to see, or are we going to see the one that says, Alice, get me the ball? Get me the ball, lads, and all the best. We'll see. I don't like that side of him. I don't like it with France. I don't like it with PSG. And so it's one of the reasons why, I think it's like Real Madrid. It's not about one guy, even though Bellingham's getting goals. It's about, Vinicius and Rodrigo and Kroos and guys coming in at the back and doing a job. It's not just, and even when he goes there, if he goes there, this story still rumbles and rumbles. It's not going to be just about him. How is he going to accept that? He's going to have to. So I'm sick of talking about this guy after.
All right.